Hey, everybody. In this video, let's talk about intuitive lip augmentation. The more I teach, the more I work with models and students and look at them as an outsider. I.e., what some want, what others propose to do, what elections. Based on all of this, I have this sort of idea of lip augmentation basically, since I taught one all the time to people, but as time goes on I realize that you can somehow do better. So, what's the best way? I think it's better to do intuitive lip augmentation. That is, when you learn several techniques, or rather all the possible ones for today, it will be optimal. So that you can master all of these techniques to a greater degree. You have to go through some kind of base for this to be accurate on contouring, so you know what layer you're hitting. That's the most important thing. Once you internalize that, you can pick up the rest. That is, communicate with colleagues, attend some professional development seminars, watch some training videos. So you have to have a base, a set hand, and then it's just a huge scope for your imagination, what you can do. So, having this base, you can actually put a huge number of techniques on it like a string of beads. The techniques for these are, which are expedient, they are useless, but nevertheless have a place, they are fashionable, something else. What do you want to talk about? I have tons of videos on techniques, how they're done, what they are for. And about intuitive lip augmentation, I will say the following. Intuitively, it's when you know 10, 15, 20 techniques, and when 10 techniques come to you, a person comes to you, you choose not one of those 15 to 20, but you know how to combine. Well, for example, you'll make a contour using the classic technique, you'll add volume to the upper one, you will turn the lip in the TP technique or in the glass technique, and you will work with the lower one, for example, with disease. Technique. It's important to be able to be flexible like that. And not doing one thing. Here's one technique, both on the upper lip and the lower lip, and all in a row, all clients, all the same. But it doesn't work that way because people are different, everyone has completely different lips, different tissue density. Somewhere the drug will fail, somewhere it will hold up well. Some already have a filler, some don't, some have narrow lips, some have wide lips. And you have to be able to adjust. Here you go. Tech to everyone. You don't have to hit him, of course. What might be considered, for example, intuitive lip augmentation. For example, we follow the outline. I've already given an example of the classical technique. Now, for example, let's take from the taut technique. When we have a superficial injection going into the circuit, and we go over the contour like this. There's also a bolus also in the glass technique. When we dot the contour, we inject a bolus, and the drug itself spreads along the contour. But more about that in another series. And the bottom. You don't always need an outline along the bottom. We also look at it, if it's needed, we do it. Next, what can be done? You can do a lift of the corners of the lips, if necessary. Either with a perpendicular insertion technique or a technique that wraps around the corner, creating a framework. There's a separate video about that too. Raise corners. Next, filling the volume can be done in a myriad of ways. The classic way is when we linearly fill in. There's a bolus method where we insert the needle, for example, from the contour or just above the contour. fully by 13 millimeters, and fill the volume contour with just one touch. So we put the needle in and push down on the piston. On the other hand, the same amount of drug we should make if no asymmetry is observed. If, for example, the lip is already bigger here and smaller here, it is clear that in the side where the lip is smaller, we will introduce the glue more. But I don't. Never advise, for example, enter one division here, that is 0.1 ml, 0.2 ml here. I never advise it that way because, again, intuitive lip augmentation is when you look. That is, take into account the natural asymmetry of the client's face, and see how he walks, how he stands up. Watching and correcting as the procedure progresses. Sometimes we put it in, let's say we watch it and don't reach for it. That's enough. You can't always predict the technique there completely. What often happens is that you have predicted one thing, and as you go along you have something else there asking for it. Or, for example, you have predicted, you have done everything, and there is a lot of drug left, and you want to add more somewhere. I mean, all sorts of things happen, you have to be prepared for them. In terms of volume, the fan technique fills in very well. When from one point we make 3 vectors, for example, here fans can be filled from any point on the contour. For example, in terms of volume, you can work in the techniques of modern and trendy TP in glass, when we are in the top, very top layer work. And spread it out like this, separating the space in the fabric. Separate, that is, tiered apart. And we put a very, very small amount of the drug in that cavity. Thank you. And then flatten it with your finger. So we turn out the lip, and it remains in the plain, flat enlargement, that is, without volume, without these lip slaps, excuse me, without these dumplings, without this duck, as everyone says. And that's what we're moving away from. And Emilian Broad, who invented the technique, he certainly didn't know. Save the world, because that's how we'd all go to those ducklings. But now fortunately there is such an opportunity as to unfold the lip in the plane, that now 2019 is very fashionable, and not owning it, of course, it is difficult to keep the audience, because against the trends nowhere to go, very popular, fashionable technique. And now I'm asking for all everybody wants those unfolded flat lips. So, you can in the TP technique, in the glass fill technique. It's when we have the same fan, only it goes on the dotted line. So we put the needle in and then we pull it back out with a dotted line. Unfolding. Next. And with this fan we work the entire surface of the lip. Fans, fans, fans. A lot of emphasis. And thus a large area of the output is obtained with the technique as a flat lip turn. Then we'll see what we want on the bottom as well. If we want a basically 3-dimensional sponge, we can fan it. If you want like a bow, for example, so that we have it here volume, you can also fan it or put it here. Also, do not forget about the Persian technique, although it is already out of trends, out of fashion, because it gives still this volume to the lips. If you need volume to your lips, she's good. These are perpendicular injections above the lip contour by 5 millimeters, and this is how we fill in the volume. It gives lip augmentation. So here they're still growing and giving volume. We work in the Persian technique on a regular layer. That is deep enough, by 3 millimeters we will be, unlike the TP and glass technique. We're working near the surface. And this is also a way to add volume. Lip asymmetry can be corrected if one side can be added with the Persian technique. And if we need a bow. If we need a bow, we can do that too. Bow. I mean, what it is. It's when we have a pronounced Cupid's arch in the middle. And that's where we have volume. In this area, in this area, in this area, in this area. So you get a bow like this. Above, below. This one's empty. You may not even have to work here at all if the sponges are any good. You may not even work with the exact purpose of having more here. That's how you do the bow lips. Here you go. So, accordingly, what can be added? It's all coming down the line. You can, as an artist, roughly sketch out a plan as you work, and then already look at the person, and see how much drug is left, and add. That's how I think a lot of cosmetologists work and come at it. I'm just encouraging you to work intuitively with this video. That is, to understand approximately what a person wants, to remember in your arsenal, what you can offer him on this topic from the techniques and start to do. And in the process, we'll have to look at it, touch up, finish it. Plus, when you've done everything you had planned, you can give a mirror to the client and see with them what you want to get rid of. What I'm against is if you've done everything you want to do and the client is completely satisfied, says, yeah, I'm fine with it. But he says, well, there's still the drug in there. I don't want to come in for more adjustments, so let's finish him now. I'm against finishing it right away. It's better to underpuncture than overpuncture. So it's best to avoid the sinner, strongly recommend it. Recommend you don't overpuncture. What are the risks of tipping? When you've, done everything. If it's little sponges, they're really tight, straight, everything's kind of elastic already, you'll start. If you continue injecting, bruises may appear, and granules may form under the skin, i.e. balls. That's from you having too much to drink. I mean, I'm already there. There's nowhere to fit. There could already be consequences that are already so mildly reversible, I'd say. So this is something you need to warn your client about so they know what the risks are. If you like this video, put likes, subscribe to my channel. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone.